All right, peace, everybody. Welcome to our second class of the advanced virtual class. This first slide is kind of just in reference to our last class that we had. First class was a recap of the first virtual, and then some new information for the people who weren't with us the first time around. So we wanted to go through the physical formula for power because that lays the foundation for everything that we'll be talking about moving forward. Um, we often quote this saying by Confucius that study without reflection is a waste of time, and reflection without study is dangerous. That's why we did the recap for the first class. And then that's why the homework after the last class was to just kind of give a recap about what you got from the first class. And so that recap is meant to be your tool of reflection to, kind of pull together everything that you got out of the first class. Um, Anybody have any questions or comments so far, or anything about the homework or anything about the first class? Anything that you have on your mind thus far before we move forward? All right, if nobody has any questions or comments, moving forward. So to set the intention of this, not just this class, but the series in general, our intention is to have this class serve as a philosophical framework as well as work at as a pilot program. And so we call it a pilot because we haven't done a proof of concept, so to speak. So you guys are kind of like our guinea pigs in the sense of using the physical tools and framework that we have martially in a basis um, for a philosophical class. So even the first class, even though it was a lot of philosophy in it, we also use physical. And so this class is purely philosophical with no physical aspects or components in it. But we'll be using the concepts from the physical to serve as our philosophical framework. And so moving forward, this pilot program is aiming to transcend the traditional physicality of the discipline and cultivate timeless life principles, fostering growth, resilience, and mindfulness for the participants, all while creating a community of mutual respect, compassion, and exploration through introspection, dialogue, and experimental learning. We aim to uncover timeless truths and insights that serve as a guiding light in the tumultuous sea of existence. And so, all of us, we exist on light or in life and on planet Earth. And even though we all have different backgrounds and experiences and all of that, we do have a lot of the same things that we all go through. And so this class is going to give you some tools that we have time tested and proven to make life easier in a sense. Anybody have any questions on that? Any comments? All right, moving forward. So our curriculum that we're going to be utilizing in this class. So the first class we went through the physical formula for power, which is point of balance, directional flow, mechanical conditioning, and point of contact. That kind of served as our basis and our framework for the first class. This class is going to be centered around what we have been given from our grandmaster, which is called the rules of combat. And so the rules of combat consist of 10 rules that we use in physical combat, but we're going to approach them from a philosophical standpoint in this class. So the first one is perfect mechanics. Second is combat communication. Third is obey the fight. Fourth is attack your way in. Fifth is visible and invisible versatility. Six is creating time. Seven is all movement is potentially dangerous. Sustain vigilance in the physical movement of combat. Number 8 is don't maneuver off of every blow. Number 9 is staying in the moment, the zen of combat. And 10, there's a blow in every mistake. And so these are going to be the classes over the next 10 weeks. So today we're going to cover perfect mechanics, but from a philosophical standpoint. And then next week will be combat communication. Week after that, obey the fight. So this will serve as the curriculum for the class. So we did an intro class, and then we'll have these classes for the next 10 weeks. And then we'll have a, kind of like a conclusion class, which will make the total of 12 weeks. So this will be what we'll be going through moving forward. Any questions or comments on this?
I got a comment. That's dope as hell. I like that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that because you just reminded me. I wanted to let you guys know that this is something that's like proprietary to us. It's not anything that you can go to YouTube and find. You can't go to TikTok. You can't go to AI. Like it's specifically, 36 Chamber and those affiliated with 36 Chamber and specifically under the tutelage of Grandmaster Kajana. So it's not,
Okay.
anything that you are about to go and find anywhere else on any other website, anything else, it's specifically, it's ours. We are sharing
Okay.
it with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I seen that because I was doing some research on Kempa, and then that's when I learned it was different ones, different, cultures. So I'm like, okay, then, you know what I'm saying? So I see what's going on.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. So, perfect mechanics, tools for creating black belts of life. And our grandmaster, Grandmaster Jawad, which is one of the co-founders of 36 Chamber, when it was created, the driving force or the impetus for hold on one second. Let me let her in. All right. All right. So the impetus for the 36 Chamber was to create black belts of life. Like that was the driving force behind the creation of the 36 Chamber. And it came from the observation of our Grandmaster Jawad Muhammad, in that he saw people come through the ranks of Kempo and, phenomenal fighters, going through the ranks, blue belt, brown belt, black belt. And, nobody could stand toe to toe with them. Nobody had anything, to combat them physically, but yet they were losing in life.
Right.
However, that may look for individuals, but they were not doing good in life, but they were sweet in the dojo. And so he, along with our current grandmaster, chief instructor Vaughn, they wanted to utilize the principles that we use in the dojo and in combat, but also carry that over into the philosophy. Excuse me?
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, they wanted to carry that over into and use the philosophy to make life easier and make life better for those participants. And so hence the tagline, creating black belts of life, was birthed. And so this is just a carryover or another arm of creating those black belts of life using the tools that we use in the dojo.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first one, we have perfect mechanics. So that's our first rule of combat. And I hope you guys are taking notes too, because it's not going to be anything that you're going to be able to memorize or, be able to keep in your mind. It's going to be a lot. So I suggest that everybody has a notebook and they are taking notes when we are in this class.
Yep. I'm noted up.
Okay, good. All right. So, no, seems like it though. Enough. So, firstly, so when we refer to perfect mechanics in the dojo, it refers to the precise formation of strikes designed to maximize power generation while minimizing the risk of injury. It involves forming movements in accordance with the principles of mechanical conditioning, directional flow, and point of balance, which we talked about last week. Hey, Tori, can you mute when you're not talking? Because that smoke detector needs some batteries. Perfect mechanics.
Everybody keep telling me that. My bad.
Yeah, no worries. Perfect mechanics are essential for achieving maximum effectiveness and efficiency in combat, ensuring that strikes are delivered with optimal force. Students continually refine their mechanics and increase consistency over time. So basically, perfect mechanics are how you form the blows and how you deliver the blows, and forming those blows and executing those blows how they were designed, right? And if you do that, it maximizes power delivery as well as minimizing risk of injury, right? So if you deliver a blow and it's not formed properly, it's not formed correctly, you may have some power generation, but you increase risk of injury when it's not formed correctly, right? So perfect mechanics are the basis and the foundation for every other rule of combat, right? Because you can't obey the fight properly without perfect mechanics, right? You can't do combat communication properly without perfect mechanics. Like it's the foundation and the basis for every other rule of combat that we saw thus far. So that's why perfect mechanics is first, because it's the foundation. It's similar to point of balance in the physical formula for power, in that is first, or it's the foundation or the basis for everything else that we do in relation to combat. Any questions or comments? Everything clear so far? Everything makes sense?
Yep.
I'll make a request too if people can just give me some feedback, because it's like I'm just talking into the abyss.
Let's see.
Yep. So those pictures are, you can see the blows being formed. So that's what those pictures are, right? Showing perfect mechanics. Right, hands are in the proper place, feet in the proper place, weight distribution in the proper place.
So that's like in this class, with the perfect mechanics, that this would be like if you try to break a brick or a board, you won't break your knuckles, because I've done that before. I tried to break a brick and fuck my pinky knuckle up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that's a part of it. So it's literally just, or not just, but it is forming the blows correctly how
Right.
they are supposed to be formed and utilized. So if you do have proper formation and structure and delivery, it'll minimize the risk to you and maximize the risk and the damage to the person or the object that you're striking.
Right.
And so it does provide a layer of protection when attempting to break something or to break somebody.
How long do it usually take to break something like a board or something?
It depends. Everybody is different. So I mean, some people
Right.
can break a board on their first day.
Right.
It all depends, but it's all predicated on perfect mechanics,
Oh,
along with
right.
the other formula for power, right?
So I could be real strong and can't break it because I ain't got the mechanics, but a smaller, weaker person with the right mechanic can do it.
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
a great observation because
Yeah.
I would challenge any strong muscle man or whatever to come and break a 2-inch board, and they won't be able to do it because you cannot muscle your way through a 2-inch board.
Right.
You know, you
Okay.
might can muscle your way through a 1-inch board, but not a 2-inch board, and that takes that those perfect mechanics coupled with the formula for power that we spoke about last week.
Right. The foundation.
Exactly right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That make a lot of sense because I always thought it was the strength because I would try to hit the brick hard, like harder and harder, like and it wasn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like damn, I can't do it. And I was benching like 315 or 345, something like that.
Mm-hmm. No, and I'm glad you got that realization because, like, if you look at most martial arts and most martial artists, they tend to be smaller, right? Because martial arts is like the
Right.
great equalizer. So, like if you look at, Bruce Lee, like he was only 5'7", 140 pounds, but like, he can fight people that's a lot larger than him and a lot stronger than him because he had these mechanics as well as the formula for power, right? So he
Oh
could generate a lot more power through his frame, right? Which is distinctly different from strength, right? It doesn't have to do with muscles and how much you lift. It has to do with clarity in the conduit in which power flows through.
right. Right. So like over time, it'll become like second nature. Like you won't
It
even have to
depends.
think about it.
It depends. So you're speaking right to my next slide. So let me go to the next one and then hold that
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
So perfection can be likened to an asymptote in mathematics, where despite continuous effort and improvement, one never quite reaches the ideal concept of perfection. Just as the asymptote approaches an axis infinitely without touching it, our pursuit of perfection involves striving endlessly to refine our skills, behaviors, and actions. Like the asymptote, perfection serves as a guiding principle, driving us to continually push the boundaries of our capabilities and refine our craft, even though the absolute state of perfection remains perpetually out of reach. And so that one, and then yeah, I'm gonna go back to these two, but let me do this next one, and then we're gonna
Okay.
come back to that. All right, so this is our Grandmaster Kajani. He said, I have trained and taught for many years. Mastery or perfection is no nearer in sight for me now than it was the first week of my training. When asked how long must I train, the question always leaves me speechless. In my 47 years of training and teaching Kempo, I still remain further from mastery. It is clear how long I must train to attain mastery until I die.
Right.
And so these two slides speak to exactly what you were speaking on, in that perfection is something that we're ever approaching. It's not a destination though, right?
Right. 'Cause practice don't make you perfect. It makes the master. Is what it sounds like. I heard a quote like that before. Practice makes the master. So it's always room for improvement.
Yeah, perfect practice.
Right.
Because practice just makes permanent, but perfect
Okay.
practice, right,
Perfect.
is how you strive towards perfection.
Perfect practice.
Yeah. So it is a practice in itself. Perfection is a practice. It's not anything that you haphazardly stumble upon. It's not anything that you just fall into, right? It takes work. And, you know, as our Grandmaster Kajana said, he was no closer to mastery after 47 years than he was in his first week. Because it's like
Right.
you are just like this asymptote, you are constantly and infinitely refining and refining and refining and refining to, you know, you get to a point where from a zoomed out view, it looks perfect, but to you, because you're close to it, you know that it's not perfect, right? So you might
Right.
be right there on the, you know, let's say on the 4 or the 6, like you're right there at perfection,
Right.
but you're still not there yet, and you're still not there yet, and you're still not there yet. And so we often
So
share this. Oh,
what?
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. What the perfection would be? You like parallel? I mean, like on the green line, or just like?
So the red line is perfection.
Oh,
The
okay.
green line is you. And
Okay.
so you're ever approaching perfection, but you see the green line never touches the red,
Right. I got you.
right? So you keep striving and striving and striving to seek perfection, but you never really get there.
Right. Right. Okay.
So that's one of the beauties of this whole thing is that we strive and we strive and we strive and we make a myriad of improvements and adjustments, and you know we get closer and closer and closer to perfection.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Everybody good? Anybody have any comments, questions?
Yeah.
Anything to add? Anything to share?
That makes
No,
sense.
go ahead. I was just gonna say none for me.
Oh, I was just saying that that makes sense.
Okay,
Kind
good.
of reminds me of Ragnarok on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's like you don't really, for someone who's practiced martial arts for, you know, all their life, they only have like, it feels like there's only like one or two defining moments for them to where they feel like they've reached their mastery. But it could happen usually at 60 or it can happen at 40. Just depends.
Right, and I mean that's how it happens. It happens in glimpses and moments, but never do you get to a point where it's like, all right, I made it and I'm the master. You know,
No.
right? It's like everybody else calls you the master, but you don't call yourself the master.
Right.
And that's how he was. You know, he just wanted us to call him instructor. Never like we started calling him Grandmaster Kajana, but you know, he never really embraced that title. All right, anything else? Anybody else have any questions, comments, or anything?
I wanted to comment on she hold on, she said what's her Latrice? She said her question was are striving for perfections or are we already perfect? I thought we were already perfect. I mean, my comment on that, just my opinion on that is I feel like if there's any truth to them saying that our creator is perfection, then why can't we be perfect? You know what I'm saying? Because it makes sense. How could something of perfection create flaw? So I think by human standards, we not perfect, but by divine, you know what I'm saying? When you look at it divinely, I'm in agreement with you. That's all I want to say on that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's a great question and observation. And basically what I want to say is that what is perfection? Is perfection absolute, or is perfection uh subjective?
I think it's subjective.
Exactly. And so again, perfection happens in moments. So like, you know, let's say what do you have in front of you right now?
I have my phone.
All right. So is your phone sitting down?
Yeah, but I got it sitting in some type of uh like almost like a selfie stick almost, but it's not a selfie stick.
Okay. Well,
It's,
grab your phone and then put it
okay,
back down.
okay, all
Did you
right,
do it?
yeah.
Did you make a mistake?
I didn't. I mean, shit. I didn't get it off like with ease, but I got it off eventually. You know what I'm saying? A little push and tug, and yeah.
All right. So it was perfect to grab his phone.
Right.
Yeah, it was perfect. So perfection happens in moments, right?
Mm.
So in that moment, you exhibited perfection.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Say it because my thing with the perfect thing was like, everybody. I felt like is right and wrong really a state of man because if I was the ruler of the world with my morals and what I think is right and wrong, then that would be the moral code for the world. And if it was somebody else, it'd be theirs. And everybody don't agree on everything. So who's to say what's right or wrong? You know what I'm saying? It's all in the person's man, I guess, and the culture, because different cultures can do things that we think is taboo over here, and vice versa. What if we were born under them rules? You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be foreign to us. So that's why I was like with the divine. If there's any truth to it, then I guess we perfect in that sense. But as human beings having their own standards and what they think you shouldn't do and what you should do, and what I'm saying, we'll never be perfect. You know what I'm saying? In that aspect, you know what I'm saying. But I understand what you're saying exactly with what I'm saying, just making a perfect like me taking the phone or to me opening the door and shutting it, you know what I'm saying? Moments of perfection. I aced
Right.
it.
Good. Yep. And that's a good place to be. So I'm not going to expound on that because we will touch on a lot of that moving forward. But yeah, that's a perfect place to be, perfect observation. And I definitely appreciate your feedback and um your involvement. All right, let's move forward. So when we look at, what I'm calling the human condition. So basically what I deem the human condition as is what separates us or what distinguishes us from other beings, right? What distinguishes us outside of appearance? What distinguishes us from the dog or the cat or the tree or the ant, And so that's what I'm deeming the human condition. So first and foremost, our cognitive abilities. So humans possess a highly developed cognitive capacity, including complex reasoning, abstract thought, language, and self-awareness. So that's part of what distinguishes us. So cognitive abilities. Second is language and communication. Humans have evolved intricate systems of communication, primarily through spoken and written language. Language allows for the transmission of abstract concepts, cultural knowledge, complex ideas, which allow for the facilitation of collaboration learning, and social cohesion on a large scale. Next is symbolic thought and representation. Humans engage in symbolic thought, allowing us to represent and manipulate abstract concepts, memories, and ideas through symbols, language, art, and mathematics. This capacity for symbolic representation underpins much of human creativity, innovation, and cultural expression. And lastly, existential awareness. Humans possess a unique awareness of our own mortality and existential concerns, such as the meaning of life, morality, and our place in the universe. This self-awareness contributes to our capacity for introspection, philosophical inquiry, and the development of ethical systems. And so I thought this was a pretty good culmination. So not saying that this is it and the only thing that separates us, but this is a good list of things that kind of put us on a different caliber or scale than, you know, mere animal. Anybody have any questions or comments on this?
One of them read a section. You'll get a more involved.
Yeah. Can somebody read this next section for me, please?
I read it.
Thanks.
And we talking about the human condition, right? The human condition. To be human is to possess the unique ability to express oneself through language, engage in complex cognitive processes, and make intentional decisions and behaviors. Speech allows us to convey thoughts, emotions, and ideas with remarkable depth and nuance. Speech enables us to connect with others, share knowledge, and build relationships, playing a fundamental role in our social interactions and cultural development. Thought. Human cognition involves the intricate processes of perceptions, memory, reasoning, and imagination. Our capacity for abstract thought enables us to conceptualize the world, solve problems, plan for the future, and engage in creative endeavors. Through thought, we construct meaning, interpret experiences, and navigate the complexities of existence. Action. Human behavior is characterized by intentionality and agency as we actively engage with our environment and pursue goals and objectives. Our actions are shaped by a combination of internal motivations, external influences, and societal norms. From mundane tasks to significant achievements, our actions reflect our values, beliefs, and aspirations, shaping our individual identities and collective destinies. Together, speech, thought, and action form a triad through which humans navigate the world, communicate with others, and construct meaning in their lives. These interconnected aspects of human experience define our species and distinguish us from other forms of life on Earth.
All right, good.
How
Thank
did
you.
you see that?
It was hard, but I got it.
Yeah, sorry doing this on my phone. So yeah, anybody have any questions or comments on this? So just kind of putting it into perspective. So we kind of identified the things that, you know, separate us, make us unique, and then I further narrowed it down into basically speech, thought, and action are, you know, kind of the things that we partake in as human beings on planet Earth. And not saying that that's everything that we do, but that is a large part of what we do, and that's a large part of what makes us humans is our speech, thought, and action.
That's debatable because I feel like wildlife has a form of speech, and through their actions you can kind of see that they also have some mechanism of thought.
Right. So I'm not saying that they don't speak, think, or act. I'm saying that our particular speech, thought, and action is what separates us. So like, you know, the dog's form of speaking is barking, but because we don't bark, it makes us unique from the dog, if that makes sense.
Okay, I see that. I think that also, I guess, to add for my own understanding is that humans are capable of, you know, we're capable of having a feral nature about us, but we also have something additional that allows us to I guess in our because we were made in the creator's image, you know, we're always going to want to strive for that quote unquote perfection that we discussed earlier. But really it's a constant refinement, I think, of our action and our thought and speech. And I think that maybe that's what makes us, you know, unique, is that we're always looking to refine. We're always trying to refine ourselves.
I
Agreed.
like that.
Yeah,
like that.
agreed. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this thing in the first place, is that it is something that we are always ever constantly refining and working towards, you know, just like the asymptote that we showed earlier, is that, you know, we see ourselves on this particular axis at some point, and we have an idea, or some of us have an idea of what perfection looks like, and so we do specific and intentional work to get from where we are to where we want to be.
Right. Okay. I like it. So it's like utilizing both parts of ourselves, that, because we do have an animalistic part. And then we do have that, I think you mentioned cognitive part earlier. So through the way of martial arts, you know, we're wanting to utilize the strengths of both of those parts and apply them to our daily lives.
Exactly.
That right? Okay.
Yeah. So since you're here, and we identified that speech, thought, and action are what we are striving towards, what would you say, in your estimation, what would be our guiding principles for perfect speech, thought, and action? What does that look like?
For myself personally, the way that I hold myself accountable, and this is just like, because we have filters, right? When we're thinking, not every thought belongs to us or originates like within us. You know, as we are all connected, you know, sometimes we pick up things from the ether. And I feel like because of that, a refinement of myself and who I am is going to help filter out a lot of that, that which doesn't serve me, or that I don't completely identify with. And so I'm constantly checking my thoughts, like even like checking my thoughts as if, because I believe that, you know, one day we won't need speech because everyone will be sentient, or have telepathy even, you know. And so sometimes I try to keep my thoughts clean, or address those, and sometimes that means addressing, you know, whatever it is that comes through that, you know, I don't immediately align with. And so by keeping the thoughts clean and keeping myself true to who I am, you know, that helps control my action, or that helps to prevent me from acting a way that doesn't completely align with my true initiative, you know?
Absolutely. I'm right with you and right in agreement with that. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts, feelings, or ideas?
Yeah, I
Examples?
have
Go
a
ahead.
just a comment on the whole thing. When I look at like perfection and moment, I look at like I take it everything in moments now. Like, oh, instead of saying, oh man, I had a bad day. No, I had a bad moment. Or I had a bad moment. I had a perfect moment. You know, that's kind of what I'm getting from this. And I kind of feel where you're going with this too. But as far as thoughts and I like I like where it's going. But that's kind of what my thoughts is right now, as far as just moments and perfection. We always striving to get there, but you will get, for me, moments. As life happens in moments, so that's kind of what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I want to make a comment on what he said. I was in a studio some years back, and I got this homeboy. He like a scientist in the studio, and he's like, I'm trying to figure out what's the meaning to living like a successful or meaningful life or whatever, or a long life rather. And he had an aha moment, and he said, I got it. He was like, it's creating memorable moments. And when you saying that, it reminded me of that. So it's like whether you live short or long, you know what I'm saying? As long as you make some of the moments that's memorable, you know what I'm saying? So I like the way you put that. That put me in the mind of that moment I had.
Sweet, sweet. Excellent. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody else have any thoughts, feelings, or ideas about what does perfect mechanics look like in thought, speech, and action?
Hi, this is Latrice. So it reminded me of the Eight Noble Paths, the first four. And when I was introduced to that, it really served as a good guide. Just the right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, all of them really, but definitely the first four is what I use as like a guide to kind of correct me when I am thinking about something or judging something in a way that I shouldn't be.
If I had a gold star, you would get it. I don't know if you can see the screen, but that
Eightfold
was
path.
actually, yep. Yeah, that was next. The Eightfold Path, which is was given to us by Buddha himself. And so we won't be necessarily touching on all of them, but out of the schools of thought that I've been, introduced to, that I've studied, to me, the most complete one that I've found that addresses the human condition without judgment is the Eightfold Path, right? So it's a guideline or rubric given to us to serve as our guiding light and principles for speech, thought, and action, but is not in the sense of like, oh yeah, you're gonna be punished if you don't do this thing. It's like, I'm giving this to you, and you can choose to follow the path or not. If you do follow the path, you'll have an easier life. If not, it's up to you. It's not it's in line with having free will and being able to create whatever experience that you want on planet Earth, as a human being. And so I just believe that this is a good guide for us to operate from, as well as it's not dogmatic either. So it's not like, oh yeah, you got to believe in this or that to follow the Eightfold Path. It's just literally guiding principles to help you to live an easier life. So, perfect mechanics in thought looks like the first noble truth. I mean, the first in the Eightfold Path, which is called right view or right understanding. So they asked the Buddha, what is right view? And he said, knowing about suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering. This is called right view. And so that is a reference to what we call the Four Noble Truths. So it's kind of like a circle, right? So the Four Noble Truths, um, they they're before the Eightfold Path, but the Eightfold Path is the fourth noble truth, right? So the first noble truth is that there is suffering, right? We call it dukkha in Pali and Sanskrit. Dukkha is the characteristic of existence in the realm of rebirth called samsara, which is literally wandering. Is life, death, rebirth is that constant cycle. And the Buddha identified this suffering in the form of birth, aging, sickness, death, encountering the unpleasant, separation from the pleasant, and not gaining what one desires. So those things are something that we all experience as human beings on planet Earth. And so this first noble truth is saying that every human being on planet Earth is going to experience some form of unpleasantness at some point in life. It's just the nature of being a human being on planet Earth, right? Nobody can go through life and feel good forever. You're going to encounter these aging, sickness, death, unpleasantness, separation from the pleasant, or not gaining what you desire at some point in life. So that's the first noble truth.
So in what he instructor just said, I want you guys to think about why is that? Why is that so? What's the purpose of that? Anybody can share out. I want all of you to share out on that.
I remember last week when I was talking about opposition or facing a bully, being intimidated, and finally stepping up and learning about myself. You know what I'm saying? From facing my fear or going through the suffering. That's what I take from the first one, as if like why we got to suffer, because I think pain is a teacher. You know what I'm saying? Every obstacle I've been through, every heartbreak, in the midst of it, it was like I wanted revenge. I was questioning God, but then in hindsight, I was like, okay, now I'm more callous to the situation, not like numb, but it doesn't hurt as bad. And I kind of got to understand it like, damn, I'm happy she broke up with me because if she didn't do that, I wouldn't have met her. She dope as it. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's like, I'm more compassionate due to suffering, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Somebody else share out.
Hey, it's Adrian. Oh,
Yeah.
Hero, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, share.
No, go ahead. I'll wait. Okay, fine. And so, the human experience, what I've learned to understand is that there are cycles for everything, and that it's like a full expression. And so, understanding that there is joy and pain, and like allowing one side to come into full manifestation as well as the other, will give something balanced. And so I've learned that there is, with each experience, there's duality to it, and that it has to fully be expressed. And so the other part to that for this human experience is to have an inner experience also. And so how we're doing here, how we share information with each other, the experiences that we have, we're also put in position to share with others because we're intricately connected. And so it's like something happens to us to be able to communicate back to others their experience also.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Did everybody share out?
Mm-mm. Next.
I'll go. This is Ray. So all of this I really resonate with learning compassion through, pain. And then also I resonate with what Adrian said in regards to the dualistic nature and the cyclic nature of human nature. And I just feel like this all kind of goes back to the divine and refinement. I feel that if, us being, encompassing divinity, there are things that we must go through to further grow closer to divinity. And it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever heard of, it's like when you read about Shiva and how we are, like, see, it's every person or every creature is in a dream of his, right? And it's like he's experiencing himself through his creation. And I feel like if I was a creator, in order for me to experience all, then I would, and to reach that quote unquote perfectionism, then I would go through everything, including the suffering, just to greater our understanding of the just human potential. And then to also add to that, I would say as an herbalist, I know that cultivating herbs is good and all, but I know that for an herb that has been stressed and tested has greater medicine, just because they are, kind of fighting for survival. So.
Yeah, thank you. Next.
I like that. That was dope.
Yeah, Ray, I like that answer. That was perfect. So for me, I have two different answers. I'm just get the simplest one because I don't want to take this off the rails. But for me, I feel like kind of what Ray was speaking on, but I think it's just the cycle we're in or the age, going into the golden age, but I think it could be also what we chose to come down here, quote unquote, just for the experience, to experience the physical pain and pleasures of, just the physical life.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks. Anybody else? Going once, going twice.
Oh yeah, I want to say this too. Also, I feel like pain is needed because you don't appreciate things like you would if you didn't have the opposing force. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't appreciate their health until they get sick. You know what I'm saying? And
So just one point of clarification though. We're speaking about suffering, not pain. That the two are not synonymous. But yeah, I
suffering and
definitely
pain.
agree with you.
I thought they were. Well, I know pain is the feeling, and suffering is what you go through when you're feeling pain, right?
It depends.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, we specifically speaking on suffering at this point, or just unpleasantness.
I got it.
Yeah. All right. So so that was the first one. Second noble truth
I got a question, Instructor Keith.
Yeah, go.
Is suffering potentially a choice? Like, not to minimize anybody's suffering, but like it being a choice, like, does it become a choice to say, okay, I acknowledge that this has happened. I'm feeling this way because this happened. now the next thing for me to do is, even if it's not anything that's tangible that could help ease that suffering, but does it become a choice at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a choice because, again, it's subjective, right? We could both see the same thing, and like, let's say we both see a car accident, and I look at it as like, dang, that was so messed up, and I'm carrying that with me throughout the whole day, throughout the whole week, and I'm just down on myself, and you see it as, that's the circle of life. It was their time to go, right? So I'm carrying that thing, even though we both saw the same event. I'm carrying that thing, and that thing is weighing on me. Whereas you see it as, hey, that was the circle of life. It was their time to go, and you let it go. It's not affecting you anymore. So it's absolutely a choice, but it's not necessarily a conscious choice. And so again, it shows the power that you have as a human being to color, positively, quote unquote, or negatively, different happenings in the universe.
Instructor, I want to add something to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because for me, I used to have real bad road rage. And when I used to get into it with someone on the street, I used to carry it with me the entire day. So I'm responsible for my own suffering. Instead of letting it go, I carried it with me. And like you were saying with the car accident, same thing for social media or the news. You watch it, oh, look what happened, oh my gosh. And and if you even want to speak on COVID, how they used to have on the news with the tickers, like how many deaths and all this stuff. And then you're putting yourself through suffering by just consuming all this stuff that society is pushing out at us. That's kind of how, how I see it.
Yeah, perfect example.
Instructor.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to just offer one small piece of language modification. It has been echoed here through the dialogue, but inadvertently, I think you used the word embracing the concepts that we're talking about now makes life easier. Was the word, and I just wanted to offer that it's less about life becoming easier and more about us being positioned with the tools to deal with what life is going to bring, which you echo completely. Like you're just not going to avoid it on planet Earth. So I just wanted to present that so that no one had that less accurate takeaway. It's not about life becoming easier. It's about us becoming more God-like and better equipped to navigate what life is going to bring us, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I take that. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Anybody else?
Maybe fluidity is a good word to throw in there too.
What is that? What she said? Right, fluidity.
Fluidity to become more fluid.
Yeah, perfect. All right. The second noble truth is the origin or the cause of suffering. So in Pali and Sanskrit, it's samudaya, which the Buddha associated with craving or attachment. So basically, if you look at the cause or the origin of suffering, is either it both are forms of attachment, but it's either attachment to wanting something that you don't have or having something that you don't want. So either desire or aversion, right? So you want to feel good, you don't want to feel bad. And attachment to those outcomes are what causes suffering in most, if not all, cases. And that's the second noble truth. The third noble truth is that there is a cessation of suffering called nirvana or nibbana in Pali or Sanskrit. And then the fourth noble truth is that the path is the cessation of suffering, which AKA is the Eightfold Path that we're speaking about now. So kind of see how it comes full circle. So the Four Noble Truths, the fourth noble truth is the Eightfold Path. And then the first in the Eightfold Path is the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. So it's just a circle. Anybody got any questions on right view or right understanding, which is the first of the Eightfold Path, and it's going to guide our perfect mechanics in thought. All right, moving on. So this is the second in the Eightfold Path, and it's called right thought or right intention. So can somebody read this slide for me? Anybody, somebody, anybody.
Which one?
The slide, right
Oh,
thought.
right thought. Damn, that's tiny. Okay.
Let me
All right.
see if I turn it sideways. Would it be better for you? Because it was actually designed to be in
Okay,
landscape.
that's better. That's better. That's better. Right thought, right intention. Right thought leads to elimination of harmful thoughts and developing such positive states of mind, such as metta, loving kindness, which is opposed to hatred, ill will, or aversion, and developing thoughts of harmlessness, or compassion, which are opposed to cruelty and callousness. Buddhism teaches that everything starts from thought. A passage in the Dhammapada phrases it this way: with our minds we make the world. Speak or act with kindness, and happiness will follow you as surely as shadow follows the person who casts it. Do you see this glass? He asked us. I love this glass. It holds the water admirably. When the sun shines on it, it reflects the light beautifully. When I tap it, it has a lovely ring. Yet for me, this glass is already broken. When the wind knocks it over, or my elbow knocks it off the shelf and it falls to the ground and shatters, I say, of course. But when I understand that this glass is already broken, every minute with it is precious. Ajahn Chah.
Yep. Thank you. So yeah, it was definitely a lot in there, but this is the right thought or right intention. So if anybody could give me some feedback as to what they got from this particular slide.
Well, I think it attests to what I was referring to earlier in regards to everything begins with your thinking. If you being mindful of yourself and standing grounded within your true self, and checking every thought that comes through would be helpful. The way that I visualize it is as if people can read my mind. So it's like, don't even, if you're going back and forth with someone, or if someone had said something or something, it's like, try not to even think on a level that causes a dualistic interaction with that person. Try to, I call it having meetings, right? Just have a meeting with your greater higher self and ask for help in seeing it from, a perspective higher than something dualistic. And then also speaks to what someone else had mentioned too. But yeah, I think we've kind of been talking about this, so I
I
like
was gonna
it.
say, while I got you here, let's do this second one, and then we'll come back and round out our conversation about thought, and then move into speech.
Okay. There is a perfect mechanics thought. There are 3 classic stages to right thought. First, becoming aware of our thinking process. Second, letting go of negative thought patterns. And third, cultivating goodwill. As we investigate our thoughts, we can ask ourselves the following questions. Are these thoughts benefiting me and others? Do they stem from kindness or from desire? Are my thoughts serving my heart? Do they connect me with life or separate me from it? Thinking can seduce us into believing that if we continue to think more, we will solve our problems, especially when we ponder future plans. The act of thinking gives us the illusion of controlling events and making things happen. When we are caught up in thoughts about the past, we often imagine that we can set right what has already happened. But thoughts do not lead to wisdom, which is an expression of mindfulness and letting go of habitual patterns of thinking. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Ooh, amen. James Allen. Is that James Allen Watt?
Just James Allen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Allen Watts is Allen. This is James Allen. Just a little bit different. But yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate you reading. Somebody else, if they want to weigh in or give any thoughts or feedback on this.
Yeah, think less. Oh man. But for me, yeah, I would say kind of to echo what a few of us already said, as far as once, I mean, if you're like in a argumentative state or you're being negative, I mean, not being negative, but if you have those thoughts, you can reflect on those thoughts of what made you think this way or feel this way. And even though that moment has passed, you can kind of even going back and revisiting why you felt this way and why you thought that could help, in future, occurrences of negativity that comes your way during life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anybody else on right thought or right understanding? Going once, going twice. Closed. All right. Mike, can you do this one since you're here? We're moving into speech.
Instructor, I can't see it.
It's too small.
Yeah, for me, I mean, yeah.
What about now?
All right, I can see that. All right, the Buddha was precise in his description of right speech. He defined it as abstinence from false speech, abstinence from malicious speech, abstinence from harsh speech, and abstinence from idle chatter. Right speech, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Words so powerful. They can crush a heart or heal it. They can shame a soul or liberate it. They can shatter dreams or energize them. They can obstruct connection or invite it. They can create defenses or melt them. We have to use words wisely. Yeah, this is something I don't do often, but think before you speak. T, thoughtful. H, honest. I, integrity. N, necessary. K, kind.
Yeah, so that think acronym kind of sums up what the Buddha said as defining as right speech. So yeah, anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions on this one?
So for me, I would say this. when you think before you speak, is it possible, well, I guess it is possible, to slow down thinking in a way, because we live in such a fast-paced world now that everything is 24/7, everything is instant, because asking someone, just to do that, it's, I guess, like you're giving us the tools with today in this classes we're taking to do that, but just right now, it's like an everyday person, that is a challenging task to think before you speak, because it's, I look at society has created this this world that everything is just fast paced, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. So multiple things. So one, fast pace is interpretation. Yeah, it's relative. So because it's only fast paced based in a comparison. So it's like, yeah, it's fast paced based upon the past, right? Because we haven't had this amount of access to information and technology and high speed internet and all of that, especially if you come from like dial up or no smartphones where you had to get actual paper maps and no social media.
Right,
Then
we're
like
superhuman.
right, exactly. So it's fast paced in comparison to that. But if you look at where things are going with the AI and the metaverse and all of that, like this is the Stone Age compared to that. So it's relative. And then secondly, um, this thinking before speaking becomes habitual based on practice. Right. So like, yeah, it might start off as like cumbersome or, I have to take time before I speak, which is cool too. Um, I find that if you just take a deep breath before you start speaking, like a lot of this stuff will happen naturally, the thinking before speaking. And then over time, it just becomes a habit. If that answers your question.
I
Yeah,
have
it
a
does.
question.
Go ahead.
This just, I just been having this thought for a long time, because I'll be in the cross between like being like natural or conditioned. You know what I'm saying? Like you think, like when you look at nature, you do anybody on here believe that or heard the quote, "Let nature be thy guide"?
Yeah, we heard it.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Because when I look at nature, it's vicious, is scary. You know what I'm saying? Every time I look at like nature, like how they, it's eat or get ate. Everything eats everything, and then we come with, I'm like, well, it's like stuff like this just to keep us, the higher ups, to keep us humble. So you know what I'm saying? Or then, like I don't know how to put it, but then I think about what you said, like that's what separates us from animals. You know what I'm saying? Is being able to make these type of decisions to be, to speak right, to act right. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And
So again, not to cut you off, Art, were you finished?
no, go ahead. I was finishing.
Okay. Um, so again, that's also relative because like it depends on what you look at. So, if you look at the lion killing the gazelle, then yeah, it is vicious. Or, the alligator eating whatever, the turtle.
Right,
Yeah, it is
right,
vicious. But then if you look at a tree growing or a flower blooming, like all of that is also nature. And so you as human being uh with higher level thinking can
mm,
can decide, right?
right,
So a flower can decide not to be a flower,
right,
but you have choice, right? You could be
right.
whatever you want to be.
You
So
know
if you
that
want to be like My bad. Just real quick though. But if you want to be like the lion, or you think you need to be like the lion, then that's a choice. And if
Right.
you want to be like the flower or the tree or the ant, I mean, it's up to you. You know, like you are a culmination of all of that stuff.
Right.
You're all of it and none of it. So you choose.
Right.
And even if
Because then,
you listen, even if you were to consider your own birth, it was violent.
right.
Your own birth, right? That whole process, blood, screaming, mom
Right.
on the verge of death herself, just so
True.
you
Right.
can be here.
Just so you could be here. That's right.
Just so you can be here. So we
Mm.
have to be careful of our judgment, right?
Right.
Of what we consider these lessons in nature, right?
Right.
So it speaks to just being observant and
I get that.
allowing nature to teach us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I feel like
May
just
I add something?
oh, okay,
Go ahead.
okay. Oh, okay, are you sure?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
feel
I was gonna go back to speaking, but go ahead.
okay, okay, okay. I feel like just to further make it concrete, that I think that those aspects, that observance and the ability to choose, and then whatever we choose to do will either contribute to human evolution or become, destructive to nature. Like those things are what makes us human. And I
Right.
think that that is testimony to what the divinity that's within us. And that's all I want to add.
Okay, because yeah, that make a lot of sense.
Hold on,
And also,
let Adrian go. Let Adrian go.
okay,
And
I'm
then you
sorry.
go.
Thank you. What I was gonna add to speaking and choosing our words and being intentional about our words. Here lately, I've been having conversations with people about. It seems like only babies are allowed to give the unsolicited truth, and it be okay. And some adults have come back and said, well, even that's not okay, but they're babies and they have to learn. So we let them get it out. And sometimes when choosing my words, I'm aware that there's multiple ways to communicate with people. However, with choosing my words, I guess the best and the most accurately when having communication with someone is that I desire to be understood and heard. And so in choosing my words, I'm interested in the person that's in front of me that I'm sharing my words with, and then making sure in which they comprehend what it is that I'm saying, but also being aware that my words will manifest. So when it comes to choosing my speech and the things that I say, I'm intentional about that, because as we had conversation, we just spoke about the earth, it's a vibration. And so I want that vibration to go out. I want those words to be exactly what it is that I mean, because they're going to return. So I'm very intentional these days about the words that I use for that reason.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead, Tori.
Yeah, I was also thinking like, like Buddha, like dealing with like Buddhism and stuff. I was always confused. Like, are they allowed to defend themselves? So like now that I'm seeing this, like we learned in the martial arts, and I see that this is a part of the program. So I'm like, okay, well maybe they can defend themselves, or is it like, I figured that if I take nature as a guide, that God has to be saying that we can defend ourselves, because when you look at nature, it seems like everything from a plant to something in the ocean to the sky has a defense mechanism. Whether if it's harmless, it still can camouflage. You know what I'm saying? Plant can give off some type of, whatever it give off to ward off bugs or whatever. So, because when you think of some religions, they be like, I'm not trying to get off into religion and nothing, but it's like turn the other cheek. And then when I learned a little bit about karmic law, if I was comprehending it correct, it's like you're supposed to allow things to happen to you so you can burn out that karmic whatever residue or whatever you owe, and then you can ascend. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when do you fight back? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you feel what I'm saying? I know I'm everywhere with it, but that was a main concern with me too in my life, trying to figure that out. Like, are we to be humble and harmless? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Or
so you know,
go ahead.
we have a saying in here that we seek harmony, right? So we don't seek balance, because balance is like stagnant. You know, balance is, you know, nothing is happening on either side, and we seek and we choose harmony. And so if someone seeks to inflict physical harm upon you,
Right.
they're obviously out of harmony. They're in a state of disharmony, and it's incumbent upon you and smiled upon from the universe for you to set that person back in harmony. So, however that looks is uh, depending on the person and the situation, but you know, we don't learn this martial art to, you know, to look pretty or
Right.
be in shape. You know, like it's actual for self-defense, you know. So it's like
Okay,
it's
right.
to protect yourself, to protect your family, to protect, you know, your loved ones and friends. And so it's absolutely, I mean, because you know, you brought up religion, but if you you know, look at the Bible, God flooded the whole earth, you know.
Right.
God
Right.
set stuff on fire. Jesus turned tables over, you know. Like,
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah.
God ain't this humble, peaceful, you know, docile person that's
Right.
just getting slapped and not
Right.
doing
Yeah.
anything back, you know.
That's true. Yeah. So we can be humble, not harmless. Okay.
Yeah, so another thing that we practice is that we are not the aggressors in word nor action.
Okay.
So if somebody aggresses upon you, you are well within your right to defend yourself and your family, you
Right.
know.
Okay, got that.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
you for
good.
that.
I was waiting till you get back for this next one. Anybody else, any questions, comment, anything else before we move forward?
I had a comment. So
Yep.
for me, I think that right speech is one of the most important things, or like main things that I see myself like thinking about throughout the day. So like with right speech, we are to think before we speak, and honesty is always the best policy. However, sometimes, and we talk about this, like words are powerful, so we can crush or heal with it. So honesty, you know, can also crush or heal. And so I find myself kind of like thinking about, is honesty always best because it could hurt someone, or is it best because we rather tell the truth rather than, you know, not be honest, or like sometimes even involving like cursing. So cursing is number one. When you say things, you are cursing it, and so it's always held in a negative connotation. And sometimes I find myself like, dang, I kind of cussed a little bit a lot today, so now I'm like, dang, am I that's not right speech. So am I being harmonious with things? Like, now I'm thinking throughout the day, like, I think some karmic thing is going to happen because I cursed too much that day, or I said something that was hurtful. Because right speech is so important. Like every single day you talk to people, and that's speech. And I think about that a lot, because you interact with people and your thoughts are one thing, but to turn your thoughts into fruition, um it's like it's a difficult thing but also an easy thing at the same time. So I think that right speech is one of the most important things that we do need to think about throughout our day to see, are we being thoughtful? Are we being honest? Being are we having integrity? Is it necessary to cuss, or is it necessary to tell the truth, or is it necessary to tell a lie? And to be kind, those different things. So I always think about right speech throughout my day. And I think it's like very, very important out of all the Eightfold Path, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was
Wow,
gonna say, yeah,
that's good.
yeah, you
Yeah,
said
thank you for
the
that. I
whole
like that.
thing. Right. Yeah, you
I,
said a
I like
mouthful.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. So, just really quickly. All right. So you said a whole lot. And so let's look at this Eightfold Path really quick. So you see the first two are right understanding or right view, and then second is right purpose, right intention. So number 3 is right speech, right? It's not number 1. So if we look at the first two happen in the absence of another. And then when you move to right speech, now you involve someone else, right? Because speech is the medium between you and another person, right? I could think whatever I want to think in my head in the presence of another, but I don't engage another person until I speak, right? And until I speak or act. So that's why the first two are involving thought, right? Right view, right understanding, and then right thought or right intention is number 1 and number 2, because the internal thought processes happen before you ever speak, right? Which is the engagement of another person. And so the mental aspect of what you go through precludes the speaking, right? And then when we come down to here, right, you asked about honesty, but honesty is only one of the 5, right? So like, let's say if I see somebody and I think like, dang, that person look fat, like, yeah, it's honest, but is it necessary and is it kind for me to tell that person that, right? So we have multiple boxes to check before we do engage in the speech act, right? So the first 2 happen in the mind, and then the rest are further iterations to check off, right? And so you really become intentional about that which you speak, right? Because remember, we also said too that the Buddha said it's abstinence from idle chatter, right? So, which means like I'm not gossiping or just speaking nonsense, like everything that I say is now intentional and purposeful, right? Which goes again into thinking before I speak, right? I'm not just saying whatever, right? It's all for a purpose or for a reason. So, with whatever you say, go through that mental checklist to say like, all right, do I need to say this, right? Is it necessary? Is it integrity? Is it thoughtful? So honesty is just one aspect of an entire list of things that we check before we speak.
Thank you, instructor.
Yep, no problem. Anybody else? I was gonna say while you're here and unmuted, can you read this next one?
Sure can. Perfect Mechanics speech. Power is language sensitive. Chief Instructor Von Glass. The statement, power is language sensitive, underscores the intricate relationship between language and power, highlighting how linguistic choices influence perception, communication, social constructs, representation, and intersectional dynamics of power within your life as a whole. Recognizing this sensitive prompts critical reflection on the ways in which language can both reinforce and challenge existing power structures, fostering greater awareness and accountability in our interactions and discourse.
Thank you for that.
Get right on this one. So, let me ask the question. What do you gather from that statement? Power is language sensitive. What are you gathering from it?
That what you say have power, and the vibration of your words are infinite. It's not infinite. It varies based on the person, but I'm just saying that potential is there.
Okay. Who else?
It put me in the mind of spell casting, like when I became a Moor, it was like the word nigga, you don't call each other that. So I had an issue with some of the brothers when I was learning about spells, and I was like, well, if you break that spell, it's just like vowels and stuff, it don't really mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not under that spell. You know what I'm saying? So I think I lost the point I was trying to make. Am I making sense?
That was a mental thing. That was a mental attack. Like, oh, get off me, stiff arm. But you're doing that
Right.
mentally ready, you know?
It was real, it was good, but that was the perfect I just lost my whole train of thought, but I think I was just trying to piggyback like what she was saying. You know what I'm saying? It just put me in the manner, words they're really meaningless, you know what I'm saying? You agree.
They're not meaningless because they're part of our it's part of our manifestation. That's part of it. Why do you think we have mantras, and why do you think, like, how else we have 5 senses? So maybe that's just something our ears need. And I know it sounds weird, but maybe it's something our ears need. You have to speak to the human body, and it's how you speak to is going to determine how you interact with others, is going to directly reflect how you talk to others. So talking to yourself nicely is talking to others nicely, and vice versa in karmic, energetical means.
Right. So what I hear what you're saying. I agree with that. What I was trying to say was like the word, it's not so much the word, it's the energy behind the word, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like I could say,
Can't refine it.
say that again.
I was encouraging. I was trying to be encouraging. I was saying, go
No,
ahead.
I hear you. No, I got you. Because it's like I can use the bitch word. Well, it depends on what culture. They be like, "What's up?" This and they're like, "Bitch" with anger. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's the word or the emphasis behind the. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
exactly. And I feel like through mental conditioning, I feel like that's part of it, is like, okay, training that size, that seasoning you put on your words.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thank you for that. Yeah, that's my take on it, though.
Okay. So there was a lot in that, right? But I think I heard from 3 people. Did anybody else had something on that? I can wait.
How many people do we have in the class? Like, I've heard.
It should be 10 of you guys, right?
Yeah, I think it's a 9.
Yeah. So somebody
9 participants.
I agree with what the other people were saying. It makes me think about like I was reading where it say recognizing this sensitivity prompts critical reflection on the ways in which language can both reinforce and challenge existing power structures. So that kind of made me think about Donald Trump said, if I don't win the presidency, it's going to be a bloodbath. And so I know this kind of like very extreme. However, language can manipulate how people move. and how powerful that is. So like when he was making comments about the White House, and then all these white people decided to, you know, charge and think that they're going to take over and those type of things. And that came from the power of speech, not necessarily action, but the speech of one person. And I think that that reflects on how powerful words are, and manipulating how people move throughout life. And it doesn't have to be that extreme or, you know, negative in that way, but it also could be powerful in that way. So like, for example, the language that we're speaking here right now can navigate how we, you know, basically live our lives from this day forth. So if you're telling me, okay, normally you cuss every other word out your mouth, but that's not right speech. So now you're telling me that that's power, that's language, that you are manipulating how I think, and not manipulation in a bad way, but basically changing how we operate, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Okay.
say one more thing. That,
Yeah.
okay, it reminds me of Moses. All right, you have a Hebrew child that goes and gets blessed to go into the palace, right? And then
Right.
he's raised among these people, he's gaining their perspective, and you know, he goes through so much. But there was a woman who was that doorway. Okay, I don't want to layer it that much. But anyway, you have this Hebrew child, he gains the knowledge of the palace, his oppressors, and then he goes back, you know, through some truth. He gains some truth, and then he goes, he cuts his hair, he goes in the desert, he goes on his fast, you know, he goes through his journey, and then he becomes a sheep herder, you know, and then God speaks to him and tells him basically what to do. Okay, you're ready now. And he goes to go upon that journey, and then he becomes a conduit. And I just feel like because I guess after that you break into the tools, because you have your staff, and then you have but he looked into, okay. Anyway, it just reminded me of the story of Moses.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I could take bits and pieces of what all of you have said, because what comes out of your mouth is going to elicit or determine the mechanics of everything that happened before. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that, please? Sorry.
Okay, so you got to stay with me.
No, I'm with you. It's like I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying? It's just a lot. Go ahead, though.
Got to stay with me. What ultimately comes out of your mouth has a lot to do with perfecting the mechanics that came before the actual speech.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you know what I mean, though.
You're like, what was the thought behind that? The you being verbal, like what was the thought that caused you to speak, right?
So
We got to keep that in check.
So hold on. So what came before speech?
Thought.
Was that the only one?
I'm stuck.
Somebody help him. Because you just went over it. What came before it.
Oh, sure.
Was it observance? What was
Oh,
it?
yeah.
No, it was the nature of, because the first one and the last one is you have to know the eightfold path. And then the other one, it was cyclical. You have to be in that, the where.
Wait, say that again.
Yeah, stay with me. Okay, okay.
Right.
That was my first thought. I'm sorry. But essentially, the first one and the fourth one were cyclical. That's what I remember about what came before. The speech. No, I'm sorry. It was thought. It was speech, thought, and thinking.
Yeah, that's
No,
what I was looking for.
yeah. The Four Noble Truths. Suffering. Okay.
Oh,
Suffering.
suffering. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, view and understanding.
View and understanding. Okay. Observance. View and
Understanding.
Yeah, you said that. She said that.
View, understanding, thought, and intention.
Right.
Those things have to be perfect or perfecting before you open your mouth.
Right.
That's going to elicit whatever comes out of your mouth as being powerful or not.
What is that? Deja vu.
It can be constructive, giving life to whatever you speak to, or destructive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So someone said earlier, the filtering of thoughts that come to you, because oftentimes you're not sure where those thoughts are coming from. They're not they could be planted. They're not your own thoughts.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Right? They can be planted and not your own. And you're speaking to it and using it as the premise of what you think is right, or what you're speaking, or whatever it is that you're speaking to.
I never thought of that. No, I like that.
Yeah. So that's why the acronym thinking is so important, because oftentimes it's not speaking to you can understand, so to speak, but really understanding your own internal processes before you actually open your mouth. That's what's going to elicit power. That is what determines one who is a powerful leader, by what they say. In that you use the Trump scenario, he stood on the platform and said something. What he said caused a number of people to go into action against one of the most powerful governments in the world. Yet he's running again.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it especially when you take words and what words that are being said, and the politics and all of this stuff that's going on, you being a student of all of these things and keeping the Eightfold Path in the context of your thought will keep you from getting caught up, and you can remain powerful no matter what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because this acts as a foundational construct to your mental schema and how you should be thinking in terms of right thought. Because if you're not, you can get caught up on anything. Just like that vaccine debate.
my mom calls it the cloud now. Well, she said, yeah, when the cloud comes, everybody get caught up in it. So I say, so I don't respond to anything. And that's how I know. It's just call it the cloud. And it's true.
Yeah.
Cloud.
you know, because one of the cloud was the vaccine. That was a cloud. Everybody got caught up to take the vaccine or to not to take it. You know, it'll do something for you, it won't do nothing for you. And everybody got caught up. Now
Right.
it's not even a mention. You know, it was a practice of speech to see how you were going to respond to it, to see if you were actually in right thought, in right view, and in right understanding. Because if you weren't, you got caught up.
Mm.
You got caught up in any spell that was cast
Right.
from the ivory tower.
Adolf Hitler.
You got caught up in any spell that was cast, arguing and fighting with each other over bullshit.
May I
Yeah.
offer something, instructor?
Yes, sir.
Study to show thyself approved. People perish for a lack of vision and understanding. So, two examples: the inoculation, because by definition, it didn't meet the definition of a vaccine. It didn't stop the symptoms. It didn't stop the spread. It was not tested. So it was never a vaccine. It was an inoculation, and it's been a test on the people.
Right.
Number one. Number two, speaking of, you know, since he was brought to the table, the man Donald Trump, what started this last stanza of conversation from my dear sister Kim was not even what the man said. It was a patchwork of words that mainstream has set in front of us to elicit thought and opinion as was expressed by her. Same with the events from J6, in that in real life, you had federal agents, human assets, provocateurs that breached that building. On top of the fact, you had doors that were opened and people were given a tour, were walked through it. But my point I'm making here is the people that run the show are the masters of illusion and the masters of craft and thought and the masters of shaping by repeated narrative. So I just encourage everybody that has the vision and desire to be a part of this to take 2, 3, 4, 5 steps back and observe as is being instructed to you. Because to be in a place where you're so close to the forest that you don't realize, so close to the trees that you don't see you in the forest, and to readily consume that which is presented to you by the people that have manipulated your waking reality on every single level is a mistake. So I hope that you take these tools that have been given to you, being given to you over the next 3 months, and really put them in action. Because I just heard, you know, false narrative that has been locked into the psyche as being true when in fact it is not. So that's all I wanted to submit to you, instructor, to the class.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's good. It's like, I feel like, think about Wi-Fi, you know, Wi-Fi wasn't Wi-Fi until there was Wi-Fi. But Wi-Fi has always been Wi-Fi, you know? And I feel like utilizing currents and at masses, and people don't know that there's a choice to be a part of that or not. So
Yeah,
another
thank
way.
you. It was definitely a rich discussion. We running out of time, so Ray, if you don't mind, since you're here, could you read this? We moving out of speech into action. You there?
Oh, you have to landscape it, sorry.
It is landscape.
Okay. Perfect mechanics action. The best politics is right action. Mahatma Gandhi. Right action. The Vietnamese Zen teacher
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Okay. Thich Nhat Hanh said, the basis of right action is to do everything in mindfulness. He teaches 5 mindfulness trainings that correlate to the 5 precepts listed above. The first training involves respecting life. In awareness of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, we work to protect all living things in this planet that sustains life. The second training involves generosity. We give freely of our time and resources where they are needed, without hoarding things we don't need. We do not exploit other people or resources for our own gain. We act to promote social justice and well-being for everyone. Got it.
Yep, let me so you can get the last 3.
The third training involves sexuality, avoiding sexual misconduct. In awareness of the pain caused by sexual misconduct, we honor communities or commitments. We honor commitments and also act when we can protect others from sexual exploitation. That's a strong sense of desire. The fourth training involves loving speech and deep listening. This means avoiding language that causes enmity and discord. Through deep listening to others, we tear down the barriers that separate us. The fifth training involves what we consume. This includes nourishing ourselves and others with healthful food and avoiding intoxicants. It also involves what books we read or what television programs we watch. Entertainments that are addictive or cause agitation might best be avoided. And, as a healthcare practitioner, intoxicants, that's subjective as well. Yeah.
Okay, so how is that determining meaning for you?
Oh, for me, that's anything in excess. In excess, or if it's become too habitual and it leads to other things, like some things that you do, I feel like we can, like out of habit, like washing the dishes too much throughout the entire day can be a call for reflection, self-reflection, because it's like, are you avoiding something? So it's anything in excess that causes depletion in other areas of your life.
Good. Anybody else? Anything on action and the actions that we stated?
Yeah, I see a lot of, I feel a lot of truth in that. It made me think about why I don't watch horror films no more. Being traumatized as a kid, watching Freddy Krueger, having nightmares for real. You know what I'm saying? So that consumption, what you're taking in, can it can be inspiring as well. Because the whole reason I got into martial arts is from watching Three Little Ninjas and Kung Fu flicks in the middle of the night. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely. It's influential what you consume, and that becomes the habit, and then it becomes your character and all that. You know what I'm saying? So that's my comment on that.
Good. Anybody else? Any thoughts, feedback on anything that we talked about today? All right. Well, hopefully that means that everything was clear and everything that made sense. So 2 homework assignments for this week's, and then we'll talk about it at the beginning of the next class. But one is to actively practice everything that we talked about today. So being intentional and mindful about thought, speech, and action, and putting those things into practice. And then lastly, we have a concept from our Grandmaster Kajana, which he termed Perfect Monday. Am I talking about Perfect Monday? Yeah.
So first, let's address what is typically Mondays associated with?
Going back to work.
Yep. Is it a joyous occasion oftentimes?
Nope.
Perfect Monday.
So rather than approach it like that, instructor premised it, started with the premise of that instead of dredging or, approaching it with that mental pessimism, so to speak,
Right.
that you're going to have a perfect Monday and everything is going to happen in a perfect a light, and you are actually projecting perfection throughout the day.
Right.
Perfect Monday. In so many words.
So I'm just building up momentum for the weekend.
Right. Right.
He says, I asked him, how's your day? He said, my days are always good. If God gives me my days, so they're all good. And if they're bad, then that means I messed it up. So all my days are good.
Right.
It's to be like, answer the question. Tell me about yourself, but he's dropping some.
So we don't have to show this somewhere. We just basically we gonna experience this on our own.
Yeah, well, you experience it, but there are some thoughts and some understanding that actually gave manifest to a perfect Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's what
Okay.
that's part of the homework assignment.
Okay.
She's like, did you have deja vu? Did someone mention deja vu earlier?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, okay. Where you got your moment of fruition.
Yeah. My bad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's
Yeah, I just had a moment. Like I'm like, damn, like I did this already. Like, it's been getting stronger lately too, like real strong. Like I'm almost getting it. But I heard that it was meaning that you was on the right path or something like that.
What, Perfect Monday?
No, deja vu.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So you can discuss that offline. We a little bit over time, and we need to get started with our in-person class. So we will see you all next week. And if you have any thoughts, comments, concerns, or anything, just drop it in the Telegram chat, and we'll get back to you. But otherwise, thank you all for being here. And
thank you.
if we don't talk to you this week, we'll see you next Saturday. Same place, same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right.
I see you.
Peace.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was very informative.
Yeah, thank you all for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, instructors. It's good to be back. I miss y'all.
Yeah, we miss you too. Thank you for being here.
Bye, boo. Love you.
All right. Love you too.